Sue. I'm one of the demonstrators, and I'll tell you a little bit about our lovely school. First of all, it's an original building, moved here and rebuilt brick by brick 30 years ago this year. It comes from Sturchley, which is a village about 2.5 miles away, and it was their school for almost 100 years. Opened in 1881 and it didn't close until 1973, believe it or not. At the height of its sort of powers, if you like, 100 children came to school here. And if you come here, you are a working class child. This is a board school. That means they're set up by the newly formed Board of Education. That comes about in 1870 with an Education Act called the Forster Act. And these schools are designed specifically to educate the children of working class people. We give you a good basic education, we turn you out as fully functioning members of the industrial society. That's our sole purpose. Prior to the Board of Education, you have tens of thousands of working class children who are illiterate, and for the captains of the Industrial Revolution, this is an impending disaster. You have more complex machines producing more complex goods, you need people who can read and write. So that's why these schools come about. This is a village school, 2 rooms, mixed classes. You also see board schools in towns and cities, those beautiful 2 or 3 red brick buildings, boys entrance, girls entrance, such and such board school. So they're separate sex classes, so they would have male and female teachers. Here, because, hello, come in. Because it's a village school and they're mixed classes, it was all women teachers throughout its Victorian life. And our education team think that's because male teachers would consider it beneath their professional dignity to teach small children. That's women's work. So that's why you generally have a seat. We don't do a lesson, we're just doing a little talk about school. It's not too scary. That was this morning with school groups. What else can we tell you? This school is 2 rooms, as I say, and it was outside toilets. The site where the school comes from is still there, it's never been built on, but if you see it, you can see why the school didn't continue really after 1973. There's no space to put any extra buildings. And by the 70s, Telford New Town is being developed. Telford doesn't exist as a place before the 1960s and 70s. Telford is an umbrella name given to all of the little villages in this part of South Shropshire. Prior to that, each village would have its own school, hence why we've got this. But the 70s sees a huge influx of people, families, children, all need schools, and these schools simply don't have the capacity. So Shropshire Education built nice shiny new schools in the 70s, and then surprise, surprise, nobody wants to come here anymore. They all go to the nice 70s schools. So by the time this shut, there were less than 20 pupils here, and it was a special needs unit. It didn't look like this, I hasten to add. This has been decorated as it would have been if you'd walked through the door in 1900. Very Spartan, not much to look at, and that's done intentionally because we don't want you distracted. You've come here to learn, not to gawp at the walls. Likewise, the windows are quite high. Again, we don't want you gawping at the world outside. There is no need. You don't need. Everything you need is within this room when you come to school. So you don't need to see the beautiful sunshine outside. You'll get that opportunity when you go home. So, as I say, you come at 3.5, you leave at 12. So the infants class, 30 children, 3.5 until just before they're 7 with 1 teacher. When you turn 7, you come into the juniors room, and there are up to 70 of you in here in 1900. Age between 7 and 12, I know it's quite cramped. 5 children to a bench, 14 benches, it's perfectly doable. These are very, very well-behaved children. I'm trained from a very early age next door. I'm not permitted to hit you at the moment. In 1900, however, I am permitted to hit children. The cane is used if necessary. We are in a time of spare the rod, spoil the child, of course. Judicious use of the cane, 2-stroke rule. So if you have behaved in an unacceptable fashion, if you've been rude, if you've been unkind, if I think your work isn't up to scratch, you come out to the front, you have your hand out, you receive not 1, 2, and you'll have to return to your seat. And of course, by the time you get home, your father will have failed, and you will be punished again for being punished at school, as is only right and proper, of course. So the moral of the tale is do as you're told, or more importantly, don't get caught. But you wouldn't need to use it necessarily. It might just be a case of looking at a child and just touching it as you went past. It's just that threat, really, isn't it? And honestly, if you've got 70 children in here, you need a little bit of fear of God. and that would work wonders, really. Scarily, this corporal punishment is only abolished in England in 1986, not till 1999 in private schools. So that's not that long ago at all, really.
I remember it. I remember it too well.
Do you know, the memories come flooding back when people come through our door out there. It's amazing the effect it has on people. Anyway, you would come to school at 9 in the morning, you would line up outside with the bell, you would have your head bowed, you would have your hands out for inspection to ensure they're clean. If they're not clean, you will take the carbolic soap and you will go and wash your hands in the sink and then return to the class. You will sit straight back, hands in your lap. You will not speak unless you're spoken to. You will not move unless you're told to move. There is no elbowing the person next to you, tapping the person. I saw that. That's why I'm standing here at the front and you're all facing forward. There is no turning round to talk to the person behind you. You'll notice you have, I saw that as well. You'll notice there are holes in the desks, and that is for your inkwell. The inkwells are not left in the desk all the time, because some disgusting children will take their blotting paper, push it into the inkwell, take it out with their dip pen and attempt to flick it across the classroom. Not in this class, though. Those would only come out for handwriting lessons and would go away, of course, when you finished. And of course you would have an ink monitor. Monitors were always teachers' favourites, weren't they? Milk monitors, ink monitors. I only managed the dizzy heights of water monitor at lunchtime. I wasn't to be trusted with anything else. Do you remember those horrible, funny coloured metal jugs, sort of a bendy handle? If you got them too full, the handle started to bend. So I was only allowed this much water in the bottom. Clearly untrustworthy. I was a teacher in later life, so you know. 9 o'clock in the morning you come in, you work through till 12, then school closes. Everybody walks home for lunch. I don't feed you, it's not my job. That's why your mother's at home. You learn to walk very quickly. Do not be late back for the bell in the afternoon. You may not be on your own walking home. You may have siblings, younger siblings or cousins to take. They learn to walk very quickly because you need to get home to have your lunch and come back. Come back in the afternoon. You work through till about 3:30 in the winter and about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the summer. What will you learn? You will learn to read, you will learn to write, you will do arithmetic. By 1900 you're also doing science, you're doing geography, you're doing history. Lots of chanting out loud, lots of learning by rote, lots of learning things off by heart. If you're not keeping up, if you're not learning off by heart, I will want to know why. And we will encourage you to do as you are told, gently or otherwise, of course. You're also doing art, you're doing singing. Here as well they're doing sewing, they're doing knitting, they're doing poetry, they go on nature walks, so it's quite a varied range of subjects really. Quite how useful these things are when you leave and go out into the world of work at 12, you don't really know unfortunately. But your prospects when you leave, what will you do? Well, remember your working class, you don't question what's the decisions that are made for you because you will have no choice in this. As a young man, most of you will follow male relatives into the world of hard, physical, manual labour. So in this part of Shropshire, it's coal, it's clay, it's agriculture, it's iron, okay? And all of the associated industries. If you've perhaps been very good at maths or got excellent handwriting, gentlemen, you may get a job as an apprentice clerk in one of the offices instead of that heavy manual work. So there's a little bit of flexibility, social mobility, and that's a real step up, you know, prestige for your parents. Girls, there's not much for you, I'm afraid. Most of you will leave at 12 and go into service and work in somebody else's house. So you leave home at 12, you may get 2 or 3 days off a year, that's your lot. But again, you don't question this. There is no further education unless you are a very bright young man and you perhaps win a scholarship, free scholarship to grammar school. Grammar school is fee paying, you can't go otherwise. But even if you win that scholarship and you have tried very hard, you're in competition with all of the other bright boys at all of the other local schools, you get that scholarship, but you might still not go because it only pays for your education. It doesn't buy everything else you need to go to grammar school. Uniform, books, shoes, everything else. So even if you've got that scholarship, you might not go. However, if you do go, ching, that's your horizons broadened instantly because you are now mixing with the children, middle class people, you are getting a good grammar school education with the possibility of university and so on, and a profession awaits you. Otherwise, come and join the labour workforce, I'm afraid. Are there any questions? Yes?
What if the girls want to be teachers?
There was the possibility for bright girls to become pupil teachers, but most teachers are middle class. So they go at 18 to one of the new teacher training institutions. They can attend university, but they can't be awarded a degree. So the Board of Education get round this by opening teacher training institutions and awarding teacher training certificates, because it's not a degree, so that's how they circumvent that. Normally it would take 2 to 3 years for a middle class young woman. If you come as a working class young woman, it's going to take you 4 to 6 years. So it was a case of, it was a way of sifting out the ones who didn't really have the staying power, and a cheap form of labour because you didn't have to pay them very much. But they were few and far between. The young lady who's headmistress here in 1900 is 24. Her name is Miss McCallum, and she's earning a very decent £80 a year. Not quite as much as a man. He would be earning about a third as much again. But in a school like this, a village mixed school, it was all women in charge here, and that's probably because there's an infants class, and male teachers would consider it beneath their professional dignity to teach small children. That was a woman's job. They would generally, at grammar schools, at the town board schools where there are separate sex classes, or of course at public schools and boarding schools. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon in the sunshine.
Thank you, miss.
Very well made.